So why we're talking today is that we want people to understand that you're not alone, that long COVID or post-COVID fatigue or even chronic fatigue syndrome is something that we can manage, that we can understand. And just because some other people don't understand doesn't mean that you're alone or you shouldn't stop searching. So we're spending some time with Sam to understand his experience and his journey so that we can also help others. So hi Sam, thank you for sitting down with me today and chatting, because I think your experience with COVID and the journey along the way is something that's pretty amazing and I think really needs to be shared. So maybe to start with, let's get to know a little bit about you. So you're a health professional yourself?
Yeah. So I am a nurse midwife myself, as you said, and I got COVID in the middle of last year. So yes, it has been an interesting journey, that's for sure.
When did you first realise that you had COVID?
Well, I was at work and got a runny nose on a cold day, thought nothing of it, but was like, okay, get a swab, do the right thing, went home, isolated, and then 12 hours later felt like absolute death. The muscle aches, the pains, the flank pain, my temperature was almost 40 degrees, and it just kind of got worse from there.
Yeah. And so for you, what did you find that the worst symptoms were?
I think during that sort of initial acute phase, the respiratory symptoms were definitely the worst. Needed oxygen in hospital and those sorts of things, but the thing that's really stuck with me are the muscle aches and the pains, and now it's that with the cognitive impact of it being, the brain fog and just not being as sharp as I used to be, which is frustrating.
Exceptionally.
Yeah.
So to those people that don't understand, because I think so much at the moment is about COVID can kill you, and that's terrible, and it definitely can. But not many people understand the implications for COVID in the long term. And in fact, long COVID has become one of the running hashtags we see through social medias. So for you, what was life like before and what's life like now for you?
Yeah, well, I guess beforehand, I was really lucky in that, I was healthy, fit. Both my partner and I, we loved hiking and getting out into the wilderness. I think a really good summary of my 2020 was that I started at doing 58 kilometres of hiking through the 3 Capes in Tassie in one day. And then I ended it struggling to stay upright in a shower. So it's been a big shift for me. So it's definitely given me an appreciation for the years of good health that I had beforehand, and it's been a big shift into adjusting into life now.
Yeah, because I don't think we appreciate anything until we lose it. So when you lose things or your health, and so it's more beyond breathing, it's more beyond muscle aches and pains. You mentioned before your concentration, finding the right words.
Yeah.
How does that impact your work? Because obviously being a midwife, you must need your concentration.
Yeah, you do need to concentrate. I was really lucky in that the role that I was in last year was like an education role, which was great because it meant that, when I was infectious, I didn't, infect any patients or babies or anything like that. But I was teaching classes 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and to groups of 20, 30 people, executive level to midwives like myself, and everything in between. And coming out the other side of it now, obviously because of COVID, we can't have that many people in the room. The classes are only 90 minutes, so you'd think, that's pretty easy. And now I still can't make it through a 90-minute class without, fumbling over my words, without having that awareness of, for me, when I'm teaching or talking or presenting or anything like that, you have that idea of this is where I am, this is what I'm saying, this is where I'm leading to, if this comes up, that's how I'll manage it. Whereas it's very much a reactive presentation now where I feel like I just scrape through, and half the time I've forgotten something really important that I was meant to teach people, but they've already gone. So it's that concentration, it's that cognition that I used to have to be able to process things at a higher level. And it's also just memory. It's really affected in my cognition. It's affected a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, which has been a huge adjustment for me.
Yeah, and that's really hard because I think we identify ourselves through work, through what we do, whether it be hiking, whether it be your ability to teach, to deliver a baby. I'm sure that's pretty amazing. So it does, I think, impact us on so many different areas, and I don't think people understand that. Because I often would say to people that I meet that have had COVID and are long haulers, but you look well, is something that is such an offensive thing to say. Yeah. Do you often get that?
Yeah, everyone says it. Everyone says it. And it's never meant maliciously, and that's something that, you have to keep in mind of no one means offence by it, no one means to be dismissive of everything that you've been through, but it is also sometimes, if you're having a really bad day, hard to not take it as you're really just kind of minimising everything to my presentation, which, for some days for me, even now, having a shower, doing my hair, getting dressed, ironing a shirt, all of those things, it can take, 2 hours sometimes. If I feel really unwell, I can't stand up for that long. And yes, you're just seeing me presenting well at work because that's what I have to do, but you're not seeing all of the effort that goes into it, all of the struggle that it took me to get to that point. And also the other side of it, of the second that I'm not in view of other people, I will collapse into a chair and stay there for a good half an hour, 40 minutes just to recover.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't realise, that people will put on their makeup or they will get out and do these things, but it's what we call post-exertional malaise. It's sort of, you do it and you can be okay, but you feel terrible later on. Sometimes, like I say, that there's $1 million down the road, you might be able to run and get it, but you won't enjoy it for a few days because you've got to recover in between.
Yeah.
And I suppose with that, because people go, oh, you're just tired. And I can keep swearing at you like this, saying you look well, you're just tired, I get tired too. And how would you describe to someone the difference between tired and fatigued?
I think for me, having plenty of experience being tired, tiredness goes away. It's something that is predictable as well. I know if I've worked a night shift and I haven't slept well, I'm going to be tired for my next night shift. Pretty straightforward. Whereas the fatigue, and particularly the fatigue that I've experienced, is predictable to a point, but it's also something that it's bone deep. It's not just I'm tired because I haven't slept and I've got a bit of a headache. It's my entire existence is fatigued right now. Every element of what I'm doing to be upright and functional is an effort, and it's a challenge more than just being tired because I didn't sleep well.
Yeah. And I think that saying you said in there, bone deep, I mean, that just resonates with me as well, and what we find and people experience. Because tiredness is something you can push through, like you said, you can get to the shift, you can get it done, but fatigue, just you can't. Someone even said to me it's like long-haul jet lag, and they sort of go, I'll stay up. No, I'm going to bed now.
Yep.
And it's not something that you can actually push through.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that you can't control all that well either, because I know there have been times where both Sarah and I have, perhaps pushed ourselves a little bit too much or whatever, and we've had plans for after work, we'll go home, we'll cook dinner and do all of these things, and it's great, and you get home and then all of a sudden you wake up and it's 2:30 a.m. and you're like, what just happened to those last 8 hours? And it's your body's just like, no, we need to sleep now. You don't have a choice, you are resting because you can't stay upright anymore. Which is very different to, like you said, you can push through tired.
Yeah.
We do double shifts all the time. You're like, oh, I'm tired, but I can go another 10 hours.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
Yeah.
So I think from anything we could learn from people, with someone who's fatigued, don't tell them you get tired too. I think that's probably the number one thing to take from it.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a journey for you, and over this time you've had the fatigue, you've had concentration problems, tachycardia, which is fast heart rates, dizziness, shortness of breath. And I probably could keep going. Is there any weird symptoms that you feel?
A really weird one that both myself and Sarah and a couple of other people that I've talked to that had COVID, was really vivid dreams, which is something that's kind of like, oh, that's that's strange, sure, whatever. And it's kind of like the only thing I could relate it back to was being in high altitude. So going to the snow or climbing a mountain for me and for a lot of other people is quite a well-documented thing, is that when you are slightly hypoxic, you have really vivid dreams. And it's not an issue when you can leave and keep carrying on, but part of it is that you're now feeling like you're awake, you're exerting yourself, but you're asleep, you're meant to be resting. And then you wake up and you have these moments of, I'm not actually sure what just happened, if it was real or not, but I'm exhausted from it and now I have to get up and go on with my day. Like it's been a really bizarre one because I thought, oh, that's so strange, surely it's just me. But I've spoken to enough people anecdotally, obviously, that it's just like, oh, okay, maybe there's something to this as well. And that was something that no one ever really spoke about or prepared us for.
Yeah, and I think this is actually really important to talk about these things because we don't want people to feel alone, like they're special. And look, they might be special, but it's sort of, you're part of a cohort of people, a group of people, the long haulers. And sharing this, I think, is really important to understand because unrefreshing sleep is a huge component of this, and dream-like states can come as well. But over your journey, obviously there's the infection, this experience that you had in hospital and how scary that would have been. Then sort of being home and recovering from the virus, but then the virus goes. You don't have the virus within your body. What happened in that journey and what helped you on your way? Like, what would you tell someone that's currently in this position?
Something that I've really struggled with myself was helping to reframe things and set expectations for yourself that are actually realistic. I know you were with us in those very early days of, okay, we're going to color code every hour of your next couple of days or your next week and look at what is actually going to take a toll on you, what is going to be okay, and what's something that is going to refresh you and replenish your energy levels or whatever it happened to be. And that was something that both Sarah and I, both being nurses and midwives, were just like, yeah, cool. We know all of this stuff, it's fine, but it's that whole thing of like, it's not going to work for me, don't worry about it. Yeah. And then you do it, and you're like, okay, it does work. There's a reason we tell people to do these things. Yeah. There's a reason that there is an evidence base behind it. It's no matter how trivial it might seem or how silly it might feel at times, just make that investment in yourself. And I guess one of the really hard things for me was making the time to make that investment. Like it's such a typical thing for me and for Sarah as well to just push through, keep pushing through, just get things done. It's okay, I feel like rubbish, but I need to get this done. Whereas sometimes you just need to stop, take that step back and go, okay, yes, we're doing these things, but there's a better way to do it. There's a better way to actually pace your days. You don't have to keep performing in ways that are actually detrimental to your health and to your recovery. And that would be, I guess, my biggest thing is actually, take that time, make that effort. It's worth it. Even if you don't think it will be, it often surprises you to just do these things that seem kind of sensible and like, well, but it works.
100%. And I think as part of the COVID Recovery Initiative, that foundation is pacing. Without that, you're kind of screwed and you just don't know where you are. And I think as well, acceptance, because like you said, you're a high functioning person and we tend to see people that are high functioning, that are pushed, or have other stresses that are going on around them. Now, anyone can be unlucky to be a long hauler, and it's not something I'm sure that you'd wish on anyone. But finding that balance, and we think we know how to pace, and maybe as a healthy person, we kind of do and balance. But with chronic health, having those strategies and like you're saying, we use an activity diary and color coding, you actually get to see the proof, which I think when you actually see it and it works, it's like, damn, I'm gonna have to change the way I do things as well.
Yeah, making the work environment for me less taxing and less detrimental. And one of those really simple things for me, it was playing music that I knew helped me relax pre-COVID, pre any of this, and bringing that back in and going, okay, cool, this is you know, something that I'll try because it's something that brings that sense of safety in me. And then having to come to that appointment with you and say, yes, Nathan, it did work. You were right.
Don't get me wrong, I love hearing that. It does please my soul. But at the same time, I think that, yeah, we need to understand what's going on in our bodies because I think it's so scary and because it's not usual. And I think as well, being a health professional, and we've all, even myself, have had these type of conditions, that until we really truly understand it, then we can actually take control of it. So I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball at you. How would you describe what post-COVID fatigue is, or long haul fatigue, or chronic fatigue syndrome is? I know, and I'm just saying this as well, this could be a 20-minute conversation, and it is hard to put in a summary, but how would you explain it to someone else?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a shift in my level of existence. It was, I guess, just slowing down. Everything on every level just slows down. And as you've mentioned, like previously operating at quite a high level and doing a lot of things and lots of overtime and all of that, and to then bring that back to, you know, your body doesn't work as it used to anymore. Your brain doesn't work as it used to anymore. And then gradually sort of dealing with that over time as you make these little gains, you have these little wins, and then you have those setbacks, and then you have those little wins again. And it's something that for me has affected more than I could have anticipated or imagined. There are so many facets of your life that are affected by it. You're like, yeah, it makes sense, but I just wouldn't have picked it. Like I said, it's that massive shift in that level of existence from what you were to where you are now. It's not necessarily a completely negative thing either. Like there's a lot of things that I still do and will carry with me from this experience forever that will improve my life, but the actual experience of that post-viral illness is, it's just all-consuming.
And again, that sort of all-consuming, I think, is a really important one because it never goes. And again, tiredness is transient. Fatigue is not. And so I think that sometimes people don't understand that there's not necessarily a good moment in your day. I mean, there's different levels of crap sometimes, as you would say, but that it's that consistent feeling that comes through. So you mentioned that there's some good things that have come from this.
Yeah, well, as I said, it was my pre-COVID life was busy, very busy. I worked full time, but in reality that's, 60, 70 hour weeks. And sometimes you just need that little reminder to go, okay, we need to stop and break these things down a little bit and look at what is actually necessary, what isn't, what's important to you. And I think more than anything, the things that I've taken from this is the importance of actually allowing a bit of wiggle room for yourself and having that sense of it is okay to invest in myself. I don't constantly have to be giving to other things, whether it be people or projects or whatever it happens to be. It's one of those very early learnings for me was in that really acute phase of illness, getting help and accepting help from other people is something that I've not really done before. I've done it for other people, and I've, quite proud of the fact that I've done that for other people before. So being on the receiving end of it was quite uncomfortable, quite confronting, if anything. But at that point in time, I physically couldn't tell them to not be bringing cooked meals to our doorstep, for example, because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't go out and get things for myself. Even just having the energy to order food to come to us I didn't have it at that point in time, and neither did Sarah. So it was a big shift being able to accept help from other people and recognizing that there are times that you do need help and that's okay. A really big part of that for me was differentiating the expectations I'm putting on myself and the expectations that other people are actually putting on me, which is, I expect this much. In reality, they're actually only expecting this much, and that's okay. And sometimes they're expecting this much, but you can only deliver this much, but that's okay too. You just need to talk. And that generally speaking, people are more helpful and more compassionate than you think they will be. Just reach out and have those conversations. Yeah.
And we should talk about this. We shouldn't, and I think sometimes there's a stigma that comes with this, that you're lazy, that you brought this on yourself. If only you put some effort in and got fit, that would be helpful.
Yeah, and that's a massive one for me actually with this. Another unexpected sort of symptom for me is my weight has been fluctuating like crazy, and intake, exercise, all of that hasn't really changed that much. It's just something that seems to be happening, and it's again one of those really easy things that someone could look at me from day to day and go, "Oh, you've put on weight, you're not doing much. Maybe you should try harder." It's like, well, bleep, 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 bleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you said, people can just really oversimplify things and go, yeah, I'm tired too. You'll be fine. I'm sad too. You'll be fine. Or whatever those things are where you can really oversimplify something. But in the reality of the situation, a lot of it just comes from a lack of understanding. And people aren't going to understand unless we talk about it.
So much. I couldn't agree with you more there. So when you're in hospital and then after the virus, so your physical capacity to begin with, how many minutes of walking do we set your baseline as?
I think it would have been 10. I know one of my big victories was getting up to 20, so it must have been 10, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point in time, like walking 10 minutes was the most that you could do without then having that post-exertional malaise, without having that tachycardia, that unrelenting fatigue. So over this journey, because I know where you are now, how do you feel that you've gone with that and progressed, and where are you now with your exercise?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I didn't think that the goals would be so small to start with, and it's something that has taken a lot of dedication to do. But I've got to the point now, which we're 9-10 months down the track, where I can hike again. Like, it's really, I know for some people that may not have, I guess, the weight that it does for me, but it was like, for me, pre all of this stuff, getting out into nature and hiking and just being relatively isolated with someone that you care about and just soaking up nature, that's how I coped, that's how I recharged in life. And having that taken away from us was really hard when you're adding on top of that something that you're experiencing that you would really benefit from that with. So to have that back and to be able to hike again, like Sarah and I last weekend, we did just over 40 kilometers of hiking in 2 days. And yes, we're not as fast as we used to be. And yes, we're not, climbing insane mountains like we used to be, but we have it back. And that's like, I can't describe how important and significant that has been for us and our recovery.
Yeah. And it just makes me smile hearing that. And it's why we do what we do along the journey. Now, obviously exercise is one part, and we've talked about pacing as an essential. What else along sort of the COVID recovery initiative have you found helpful and really guided you, I suppose, to where you are now?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is really, really helpful for me, and again is something that I'm going to carry with me beyond this and is going to help improve my life, one of the big things was symptom mapping and the traffic lights. Having, I guess, putting that time aside to have that introspection and go, okay, what is actually happening in my body? When I'm doing something and I notice, oh, my heart rate's really high, okay, maybe I'm exerting myself more than I thought I was. Maybe I need to either find a way to make this less taxing or anticipate I'm going to need a break after this. Again, that basic understanding of why is it so hard to shower? yeah, having that drop in blood pressure, which does align with, you know, those OI, POTS kind of symptoms that you guys are so experienced with, that people are just gradually realizing this is what's happening with the long haulers as well. But it's not necessarily that you're able to control it to the degree that you'd like to, but having an understanding of what's actually happening in your body is really helpful for, okay, I get this, I can kind of anticipate it, I can plan around it if I need to.
Look, 100%. I think that connection with your body is so much. And often when people become unwell and get COVID, that they want to distance themselves from that. They're saying, this is not me, this is not who I want to be. Yeah. So being able to have that acceptance and connect is so important, because we don't believe things are random. You know, random is what we don't understand. But the simple things like you're saying about, why do I get dizzy? Why is my heart racing? Why am I fatigued? Why can't I concentrate? Why is my sleep unrefreshing? You know, why do I ache? You know, why do my legs swell up? Why do they go blue? You know, why does my vision change? All these things, and it's really important, because once we understand, it's just not scary.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, I guess as healthcare workers, it's that reflection for me of, why do I explain procedures to patients before I do them? So that they understand, so that they can anticipate, and it makes it less scary. And that's exactly what this is, having that degree of understanding from all of the content that we had through the COVID Recovery Initiative, through the appointments that we've had with you. It makes it less scary, which is huge for an illness like this that is relatively unknown. It's a novel virus, which means the recovery is novel too. But we kind of understand it. And that really helps. That just helps with your general sense of well-being, and even just being able to have that, okay, I am going to invest a bit of time and effort in this because I have hope. Which, when you don't have hope and you feel completely helpless and you feel like everybody else is powerless to help you, then that's, you know, you've lost your day before you've even started it. It sounds very cliche, but that's what's changed our lives, is having that insight and understanding. Yeah.
Awesome. Really powerful. With exercise, some people say that exercise is dangerous. What would you say to people that say you shouldn't exercise and you need to ride this out?
As someone who's worked in an emergency department, I know where exercise is dangerous comes from. That's not what we're talking about. I think it's, for me, reframing what exercise was. For me, exercise was going out and absolutely belting yourself for a day. Whereas, as we were talking about, I needed to change that to, exercise is, I'm walking for 10 minutes each day on a flat, even surface with no incline, and making sure that I had a rest before and that I can have a rest after. Until I got to the point where I didn't need those rests before and after. And as a nurse, being able to walk for 10 minutes doesn't really sound that significant, but when things have changed as much as they did, that is how you do need to reframe those things. And it's, for me, I feel like that was one of the biggest physiological changes for me, was exercising, having that baseline, and having that baseline gradually inching upwards and bringing that extra capacity back to be able to deal with things. That's what really, really made a difference.
Hi, my name's Nathan from the COVID Recovery Initiative, and today I've spoken with Sam about his long hauler journey, and I hope this is a valuable resource for people so that they can take control of their health rather than their health control them.